America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll be starting today with our budget workshop. If anybody has one of these, please turn it to silent so we don't phone in and recording it. Okay, for the workshop, I'll call roll. Our district attorney, Anthony Pierce, is here. Supervisor Tinkle is here. Supervisor Banks is absent. Supervisor Feinberg is here. Supervisor Guy is absent. Supervisor Flaherty is here. And our district manager, Chris Shoemaker, is here. And with that, I'll turn it over to Michael Pratt.
Okay, well, it is just open for discussion. We were going to talk about the CIP plan. I put together just a little memo, everything that's kind of been changed. For the most part, if you recall last year, the CIP for utility, that was kind of completely overhauled. Tetra Tech had reviewed it, and we kind of followed that 5-year plan now. You know, when it's approved, it's only this current year. All those have been kind of held as placeholders as a plan. And a lot of them were based on timing for SRF and things like that and the need. The general fund, not too much has changed. We did add purchasing of a vehicle. There's the GIS mapping that Chris has been working on for the enterprise fund and the general fund. Purchase of an excavator. This has been one that Kenny has been wanting kind of for his utility operations, but to be used for public works projects as well. We've had the request for additional bocce ball courts, which I think we've even had the estimates for. To put those in. We put in some money to replace the ballast boxes at the soccer park because they're, if I recall, they're not in very good shape due to the sprinklers and things like that. And they'll be needed replaced soon. And then also from some of our input from the residents or dog park users, you know, we put money in for upgrades to the dog park to help with the reliability of the gates and to put, you know, an additional fence gate or cameras up to help with some of the issues we've been having there.
Go right ahead.
Mike, on the bocce golf court, 25,000, did we get a bid or not a bid, but a estimate from somebody? Because that number I can tell you is wrong.
Chris, I believe we did have one that was 20-something thousand, right?
And that was from the same vendor that did the court, so
Same bidder, and it includes all the drainage, fencing, and everything.
we didn't do fencing, but we did do seating and covered seating on each side.
They're also turf, correct? They're not clay.
Right, correct. That we
Turf,
artificial turf for maintenance purposes, and also
I assume they're going Bermuda, like a golf green.
I
I don't know what it is.
think the sample is actually similar.
I think it's artificial.
Sorry.
Artificial.
Artificial turf.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got a really good idea. Okay.
Anything else?
I'm just questioning the purchase of the truck, because I do see people go out to places and they're bringing 2 and 3 trucks. I don't understand why they wouldn't go on one truck to a place, and that's why I'm questioning it. From Gateway, from Daniels to 82 is only about 5 miles.
And typically, I'll answer that is typically if you see 3 people, 3 trucks, that means they were in 3 different places doing something and they all got called somewhere.
We had 3 trucks Saturday.
And we also have 2 positions we're getting ready to fill in the public works and the lakes. So even right now, first meeting downtown, half the time I end up taking my own car because during the day you go out there and there won't be a truck available. Yeah. It's a cheap truck.
No, I'll go ahead. I'll let you go ahead. You have me.
The excavator Are we talking about something like what was out there the other day at the crash site?
Yes, sir. And trailer.
Can you get that for that price?
Yes, sir. In that area, yes.
And that's to include a couple of the attachments too.
Yes.
Well, you gotta lay.
So 3 different buckets, I believe, was the, were the estimates that we were getting, 3 different buckets.
Do you have a question?
I was gonna question the bocce court with Mr., I didn't sign up for that one, I didn't. The bocce court for $25,000, I think is kind of a waste at this point in time. Most HOAs have a bocce court within their field. We had one in Stony Brook, and I believe if the latest I heard was it's not gonna be maintained because no one's using it. And it was a pretty decent one too, you know, but no one's using it. And I really would rather see, I'm not sure where this is gonna go, but I'd rather see this kind of money and add more money to it and make it more of a recreation park at the pool area, so there is some supervision around there, because there's always somebody at the pool from Gateway. And I'm not sure how much supervision or how much coverage would be on something like that, especially spending $25,000. And if it's wide open, and I've only heard bits and pieces, it seems like an awful lot of money to spend to have wide open, no one watching it, and then probably nobody using it that much, unless you have somebody here setting up tournaments and stuff on bocce, and that's what usually where they have most of their bocce stuff, is when someone sets up a tournament. But we had nobody at Stony Brook, and I don't know who with Gateway Services would have the time to work on that kind of thing. But I'd rather personally see the money go towards a recreational park where you could put in a bocce court, horseshoe pit, and other things there where people could all go, but where it would be supervised or someone from Gateway Services there during hours of operation.
Thank you. Just for the record, that was Warren Davies.
I'm not aware of any other communities in Gateway that has a bocce court, other than Stony Brook. And I know the Silver Lakes people asked for it.
Silver
Yeah, I think
Lakes did, we looked at a spot across the street, you could put it, and then there was some discussion about moving it up to the pool, you know.
It needs to be central.
Yeah, within the fenced area. We have that as a placeholder too, but if we move ahead and build those courts, it will be reimbursed through the recreation impact.
Yes, we had that grant, what, about $150,000?
Yeah, it's about, when I checked a few months ago, about
Sitting on for years. So that's one thing, is it's not coming out of any, is that matching or 100%?
It's not a percentage from recreation impact
it
fees.
just has to be new.
Well, the nice thing, at least the nice thing going with the artificial is it take care of the drainage. A lot of the maintenance, like the one we have with the country club, that thing is maintenance intensive. It's not, it's like the sand they have at Wimbledon play.
But, yeah.
And, I mean, you look at it, it makes a mark. So, at least the O&M side of it is on the reasonable side.
Mrs. Flaherty?
Not over to you? No, I was gonna ask something about the enterprise fund.
Go ahead.
Could you explain what a GPR is like?
I couldn't.
Kenny Hall, utility manager. GPR is a ground penetrating radar unit that we are developing. We've lost 4 plans, especially for the upcoming Daily Green project with building fiber optics. We can go in and start ground penetrating radar, finding types, finding locations, finding depths.
I just,
Yes.
Anything else?
We'll switch to the questions on this.
no,
Okay, go ahead.
As a result of the fiasco Saturday all day, we get some serious problems on the utility side. Valves that wouldn't work, we've got to get out. We were told by Tetra Tech, I think it was 4 years ago, they did a report and gave us a warning, get these valves checked. Well, Saturday we went to turn on valves and as you know, they all froze. We couldn't get anything closed. We need to immediately get onto a program where we identify right now, what I call the critical valves at every major pump station, those gotta work. We have the line ones, those gotta work, to isolate. The ones that got me were the ones at the Griffin Gateway Boulevard, which we could have really isolated that area down, the valves wouldn't let us, so we were pumping water from Silver Lakes Pump Station around the big horseshoe and coming back into the trench. That's just not good at all. So to have to turn off, where I'm going is that that is an operation cost that we need to make sure that we get into the operation budget on the enterprise side. But those valves, I'm guessing we're gonna have about 50 when I counted them up the other day.
We've done 21 in the last 2 years.
I'm talking about main load.
Yeah, and we're doing currently with the with the bypass pump, if the 2020 budget passes as is, we're going to have to do another line stop like we did at Stony Brook, and that is a dual line stop to pool. And we will put 2 new inline valves, 3 new
You're
plugs.
talking about hot tap valves?
Yes, they'll be inline on the 2 force mains that go down Griffin Drive.
But I mean, you're gonna shut down, you're gonna hot tap them.
It's gonna be a line stop.
So
We'll
you are
go
gonna
past
shut
them.
them off.
Yeah, we'll go past them and shut the line down.
If you start hot tapping valves and the price just went through the roof.
That's tricky business. Very, very expensive.
You might get away with it on water, but sewage is very risky.
We replaced the two plug valves at the Griffin Drive station at the last rehab. We replaced 5 there, 7 at Stony Brook Master Station. We have a new inline valve at Stony Brook Master Station. And then all the lift stations are 3 and 5 usually, and they
Do
won't.
the B1 valves work? That's what I
But the
thought.
valve in front of that does work.
Okay.
Because if the Commonwealth force main break, we know that valve works because we were able to shut that line
My
down.
thing is we need to get that identified, but more importantly, talk to Danny. Danny got a hold of, or Tyler got a hold of SRF people, and they are willing to add the valves as an SRF funded item. So while we're doing this facility plan for the bypass, and the 2 bypasses, the one down the FPL East and the one out here on the drive back to the wastewater treatment plant, it would be great to throw those in. I don't know, I guess 50 valves at somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000 per valve.
The Griffin Drive ones were $6,000 a piece.
I'm sorry.
The Griffin Drive plug valves were $6,000 a piece. We did 2 of them. We did it on the 12-inch and the 6-inch.
Yeah, and right now we have a 6 and a 10, a 6 and a 12, coming into a 6 and 12, goes 100 yards to a single 12. You talk about an Achilles heel, that is it. If we have a break on that, all that tells everybody is you better pull your outhouses out. It's gonna be days to fix that mess. But anyway, the big one is I would like to have added on the wastewater side below the 20-inch force main, and I think that can be downsized. We did some calculations, I think we did get down to a 16-inch. But my guess is somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 to put in there as a line item for fiscal year 2020, and that is new valves, mainline major valves, so that we don't ever have what happened Saturday happen again.
Yes, that one. Along the vault at Griffin Drive and Gateway Boulevard, and then along the vault here at Soccer Drive and Griffin is another big vault. All goes up.
Well, the other one is when we're doing this, we need to get with the engineer for the road, the roundabout, find out what, before we go and replace those 5 critical valves there at that intersection, they're gonna be right in the middle of that road. Or at least that's what shows up on the plans. We need to figure out if we get any idea what their elevation is to set those valves at.
My question is realistically, how many can you do in a year's time? Because he's talking 2020
You
budget.
gotta sub it on it, you gotta get it out. You gotta get, this work is way complicated. And get it down to these valves, just imagine digging a hole that's probably 12 foot by 12 foot minimum, right there at the intersection of Griffin and Gateway Boulevard.
And getting the vendors in here that actually can do that type of work, and then actually doing it, it's going to be quite a task.
The other one we're gonna need to do is we've got to get, I think you can go to surplus, government surplus. We have got to get a 10,000 gallon tanker just as long as it holds water. To have that in an emergency, we can take out in these deals and dump sewage, dumping sewage into the storm sewers, it never happen again. They will never allow it.
Well, if the line breaks it, if the line breaks until we can get out there and get it isolated, whether the valves are working or not, you're gonna dump into where it's gonna go where it's gonna go until we get there and isolate it. And then isolating it, especially on that 12-inch force main, the line pressure is.
What I'm getting to is, Jenny, is when, at the beginning, when it's flowing in there by Mother Nature, because it's broken flowing, that's one thing, but when we put pumps in, pumping the pumps into the storm sewer ain't gonna get it. We need to have a truck to dump it into.
And if you're, again, I'll ask, if you're talking about 50 valves,
We
even if
could
you
realistically do probably 10 to 12 in a year with getting it bid and getting a contractor in here that can do it, actually do that type of work. We could go systematically go through it. Let's say as we go along with the rehabs, we're replacing at least 9 plug valves a year, every year. The last one we did with Stony Brook, we did 7, and then with Griffin Drive, we did 7. We replaced two.
Minor valves, I don't have a problem with, but the ones I'm talking about are major valves, that's beyond the scope of the equipment we have. But that would be
The FPL bypass is a fantastic idea. That would really alleviate a big chunk of that.
You put in the FPL bypass, go right past where the accident was Saturday on the other side of the road, cut in a valve, shut it off, and you reroute Stony Brook,
Pelican.
a Next Level Church, the Church Lutheran Church, Prado, Pistoia, and Matarita. All 6 main pump stations no longer dumping into the street. They go around the bypass.
Is there anything else on the enterprise? Mrs. Flaherty?
Yes, now that Mr. Booth is here. Bank fees,
Yes,
where do we pay bank fees for?
I have to go and take a look at the details of it, but, I mean, there would be, any number of transactions that would possibly generate bank fees, including generating an ACH batch for utility billing.
and most of that's probably utility.
Because it just says bank fees, it doesn't say what that is. I'm thinking of charging the fees for everything.
Well, it's usually not for everything, but there are certain things, I have to look at the details and I can do that.
Okay, thank you. That was all.
Anything else?
Steve, we're looking at in the 2020 enterprise budget, try to add it up, $4.3 million worth of SRF type work in next year. Is that going to be a cost for P&I replacement in the next year, 21?
2021.
So we don't have to do anything right now to increase.
No, because any construction you do in 2020, you're not gonna have to pay a P&I until 2021.
If we're done, I'll close the workshop and start the regular meeting. And do we have people that want to speak?
There are 2 speakers, and first up is Julie Peck from Eagle Point Circle.
Just a couple of questions regarding that fun part. I understand that towing is going to be enforced, is that correct?
You have a towing policy that we passed, yes.
Okay.
And we'll be, just to expand on that a little bit, we'll be putting up signage very soon, more of the signs for that, and we'll have enough a week or two to put those out. And then after that, if people are pulling their cars in for the weekend or boats or lawn service, we'll take some action.
Okay. And then regarding the gate, do we have any time frame of when the gate will be opened and closed regularly?
Same when we start that towing and we'll start shutting.
And just a note from our HOA president, we are adding security to our neighborhood. And she wanted the board to be aware that the security would be willing to close the gate at night, if that's something y'all would be interested in. And could possibly be worked out between GSD and HOA and the company that's going to provide the service. So, okay.
Judy, you all putting in a guardhouse, or are you just talking about a rover?
A rover. As far as I know, no one has said anything about a guardhouse. But security, will be there. That's what I was told. So, and there wasn't a date on that either. I don't know if they worked it on. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Stony Brook, Warren Davies.
Warren Davies, Stony Brook. In reviewing the towing policy and the resolution, and I have no problem with the towing. I think it's probably something that may have been overdue in trying to get the parking under control. Section 3B, towing, removal, and authority. And that gives that responsibility to the district manager or his or her designee. Now, I'm sure the district manager probably don't want to get called at 2 in the morning and say, can we tow this car out in front of my house? So I question who would be his or her designee. Would that have to be someone from Gateway Services, or would that be something that would be delegated down to the HOA to have that operation?
Our HOA, we saw that having all kinds of problems,
Yep.
and we solved it just by, when reds come in and it's 12 o'clock, it's gone.
Yeah.
And
Well, and that's,
nobody's got the authority to say, oh, that's Billy Bob, he's over there drunk, he left his car out.
I think that needs to be,
That's all it is to it.
that needs to be spelled out, I think, in the resolution, that how someone is going to be done, or a policy to do that, because
Gonna tow, you tow, it's that simple.
as soon as you say anything about parking in Stony Brook, there's an immediate panic. And everybody hears about it, and they're all way off base on a lot of different things. So I think the cleaner we can make this announcement that this is what's gonna happen, the better off we're gonna be. If it's gonna be from midnight to 6, we're gonna tow it, that's fine, but I think it needs to be stated in the policy.
That's the one thing I couldn't find in the policy, and maybe I was blind when reading it. I didn't see the time.
No.
To me, 12 to 6.
All it says is that in here, as far as authorization and removal, is the fact that the district manager or his designee would be able to do that. And I know there's places that have them come in after a certain time, anybody on the street gets towed. Other people, the way this is, it would say that someone would have to approve each one, and then who's going to, say this is what it is. And I think if it's clarified, it takes a lot of question out and takes a lot of argument out of what's going on.
I know we went through an attorney, and the signs that we had over there, of course, we got several entrances, and they had a sign at every entrance. But the wording in there was the legal wording to
Yeah.
cover us on that.
And that's what's critical, and that's what's in the law too, how it needs to be worded and what's gonna happen, so. And that'd just be my recommendation, that it be a little more specific as to who and when it's gonna be towed. And, towing after midnight or whatever happens to be, I know that's what Gateway Greens has, and maybe some others too, but I think just to clarify it would take some of the light out of for some people who wanna come to and argue about it.
And I think because Gateway Greens and Stony Brook are very different,
Yeah.
there wasn't going to be a time frame
Our
on
roads
it.
are same size as yours. I just measured the other day. Our roads are same size, 24-foot back curve.
And as far as designee, I think, when I talked to Chris about this a while ago, I think designee could be, CAM or board president. If you're not available, that we could have the HOA CAM or board president be the designee.
What are they, what does it you do?
To call reds.
At ours, Reds just comes at 12 o'clock. And they circle around, there's anything at all.
And it's done that way
A lot easier.
in many
You don't have
places
any
like
of
that, but again, that's something I think people have to,
No middleman involved.
so I'll relinquish this for board president.
Thank you, Lauren.
We have one addition, request to address, Mr. Andy Russo, Stony Brook, towing policy.
What on?
The towing policy.
So there was a line. Hi, Ed. I didn't know I'd be called that fast. Andy Russo from Stony Brook. I'm the president of the HOA, and I'm here to talk about the towing policy that we're trying to get adopted. As Mr. Davies had pointed out, we've had a lot of problems in Stony Brook with parking problems. It's whittled down to a handful of people that, no matter what we've done, based on the CDD's discretion of putting safety violations on their car, it's become a laughing matter to them. They just think it's a big joke. We're spending a lot of money with a Rover, putting safety warnings on cars at night. We're ticketing at least 2-3 cars every night, mainly the same automobiles, and the people just think it's a joke. We are not randomly looking to just tow every car. We're looking to get some of our biggest violators, who I think, if we do, will eliminate our problems. And I'm just here on behalf of the HOA.
Problem you run into on that, we had the same issue, and the attorney advised us numerous times, don't get somebody in the position of being selected. That's the worst thing you can do. You have a rule, you just enforce it, and everybody complies.
Okay. So this towing will be at night only?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well,
The Stony Brook Board has not even discussed it. I mean, we're waiting for the approval from here if it comes down.
okay.
I mean, we can't, our board can't discuss a policy if the CDD doesn't approve us removing cars from their streets.
If you do it in the daytime, it's a nightmare. Just a nightmare. Because then you're gonna have vendors screaming and having vendors getting a break that other people don't. I mean, I've heard all this. I mean, hey, yeah, we have this gray hair. That silly issue. It's just, make it at night, be done with it. Now, one thing we did is we don't allow, it's seldom enforced, but don't allow 2 people to park at the same spot, to where now you've got to squeeze through, because you, like our street's 24 back to back, which are yours, you get 2 cars, or especially 2 dualies, pickups,
It's impassable.
it is impassable.
We've already had residents that have left their garbage behind because the garbage truck couldn't get around the cul-de-sacs because there's been 3 cars parked from one household on the street on the cul-de-sac.
Our mail lady, if she sees anything within 10 feet of the mailbox,
They
she
won't-
goes right on by.
Right, they won't deliver.
She won't deliver.
Right. The problem, we had the instance I just said about the people living there on the cul-de-sac blocking the garbage truck. They're the kind of peoples that we would like this policy approved for. So at least during the day, we have the option of calling the towing vendor and having those cars removed if they're there.
Well, you said something that concerns me a little bit, is that we're talking about making a motion and doing some stuff. I wanna make sure that the HOA over there is in tune with what we're looking at. I mean, I know there are roads, but
Right.
we need to communicate with them to
Our
take
HOA.
what you wanna see done.
I've been on the board a year and a half, been attending board meetings for 10 years. You know, Ed, I also own a house in Gateway Greens that I have attended in. All of our boards for the last 10 years have been frustrated by this policy. And it's become such a laughing matter within our community that we have no other options. And eventually, either a child's gonna get hit by a car, or an emergency vehicle is not gonna be able to get to somebody's home and they're gonna die. We did have an instance a number of years ago that Joe McCullough is aware of on Ivory Stone, which is a loop, cardiac case, and the ambulance and fire truck tried to get down the street and got halfway down around the loop, and the loop was blocked. And they had to back all the way around and then go up the other side of the loop to get to their residence home. That could have cost somebody their life.
Do you all have, when paying attention when I was doing the measurements today, do you have sidewalks on all your streets?
On one side.
See,
Not all
that's different than
streets.
us. We don't have sidewalks.
Right.
The only streets we have sidewalks on are basically main thoroughfares.
Right.
So all of our 24-foot streets, you walk in the street.
Right.
So when we have cars parked on the street, you better watch what you're doing.
Right.
It's dangerous because we have no sidewalk.
Yeah, I know.
And,
There is the one street.
Right.
oh, that's true.
That makes a
Stone
big
Valley.
difference.
Yeah.
At least that helps.
The,
Didn't help the dog, because the dog will go where he wants to go.
one thing that we'll do, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my assumption was that when the board was able to discuss this and come up with some guidelines for this, that we would run that past our attorney, and if we need to run it past Tony also, that's fine. You know Darren.
Yes.
So, I mean, but Andy's right, without having this towing policy passed and in place, there's no point in discussing
Right.
how we're gonna implement it.
Well, is the ball in their court?
The ball's in
Come
your
back,
court.
The ball's in our court?
Right, we'll have to pass this resolution.
Okay, so with the resolution we've got, does it need additional detail to cover what we talked about? Or you feel that it's, covers what we got?
It does, it does.
It does
I
not.
don't see how, the way it's written right now, nothing comes back to Stony Brook. Stony Brook needs to have the control, but it needs to be afforded or printed in the resolution, because right now it just puts everything onto the district manager or his designee, and I don't think his designee can go outside Gateway Services. One paragraph or two sentences would cure that whole
Is the
thing.
responsibility only for determining towing?
Correct.
Because that could be eliminated just by you tow or you don't tow. Chris needs to be doing that like you need a hold here. You don't want that job, I'm telling you, you don't
Well,
want
that's
My
why,
phone rang off the hook when I had that. You don't want that job.
that's why Ann designee, I don't know why Ann designee couldn't be outside of the CDD.
Let Tony decide. Tony would have to decide that.
I'm more
That's-
comfortable with it being within the district, you know, from that perspective, the ultimate liability falls on the district, for that. But again, the way to, indicate that the person is not authorized by the district to park there is that the district, there's no, the manager says there's no parking on the roads at all. You know, so that absent them having a specific document in hand. And the only person authorized to park on the road would be the manager, or the board authorizing who can park on the district facility.
May I?
Yes,
Do you mind, Ken?
state your names.
I will, I'll go through both of them. Joe McCullough, Stony Brook. I chair the Stony Brook Gateway Advisory Committee, and this is a subject that's been tossed around for a number of years. In fact, it was the Gateway Advisory Committee that brought it to a vote and approved it so that Tony could review it and get back to us with some guidelines and give us a legal opinion. I think it was about 2 years, was it 2017 or 2000?
Longer ago.
But 2000, when the law changed, they gave you the
2 years
right
ago.
to tow on roads that you own.
Correct.
And we saw that as an opportunity to get this cleaned up. And I'll say this, that the intent was to eliminate, and I can't remember if it was Warren or Andy that said it, but maybe both. We have some troublemakers who like to abuse it and make a case out of it. And it wasn't about unequal enforcement, it was about just getting people off the road. And those will probably be the first ones that we do get because they are always there. And we do put out warnings. To this day, we still put out warnings, telling them they're not legally parked and that it may come to a point their vehicle is towed. We'll continue that. We need a sign out front. We're aware of that, even though we have no parking signs on each street. But in the beginning of the community, we intend to put the proper no parking or towing away sign. I will say this, to the subject of an assignment or responsibility, I was always under the impression that Chris would have the capability of assigning it to the highest board member or the CAM that can be reached at that time. If it's evening, you know, that would most likely be what the case is. We really weren't thinking quite of going quite aggressively as you have. Now, I'm not a board member anymore, so I can't speak for the current board, but I can speak for previous years how we looked at it, that we weren't just gonna give Reds a carte blanche to come into the community and tell everybody or anybody. And that may seem like a problem, but there are sometimes, now you start at midnight. We may wanna start earlier, I don't know. And there are parties, we're a young community. People do get together and have parties. We have holiday weekends. We must be the place to be because the place fills up and the streets get full. In the past, we have been somewhat lenient about letting that occur, normally during daylight hours, but occasionally those parties run until a little bit later. I'm not sure we're ready, but it'll be up to the board to have the carte blanche. We would like to see the agent who's assigned in our community to have some flexibility, in the sense, not like it's Billy Joe and he's a good old boy or anything like that, but the fact that we know there's a big party at that house. It might be and it might be the holiday weekend or something. We won't call Reds in probably, and that sort of thing, but once again, it's up to the board. But we would like some flexibility, and I think that other Stony Brook residents would agree with that, and I don't know if there's a problem here or not, but it'll be up to our board. That's what we're looking for, to have the board have the responsibility under Chris to handle these things. And no one particular person, and I don't think Chris wants to be to have his phone number passed around, and I don't think that anybody else who's an employee of Gateway wants to take on that responsibility.
In ours, there's the flexibility that if somebody's having a party or an event, they just come up and they get the passes.
Exactly.
So I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, so
it's just the selective deal that we were warned, just,
No,
if you got some bad dudes, which we had, and they taunted us.
Oh.
I mean, they taunted us all the time. They got there and parked that sucker, SUV on Main Mahogany Drive till 11:59, and then pull it into the driveway.
We have a Stony Brook site on Facebook. There are people who laugh at it and say, oh, you can park anytime you want, don't worry about it, go out and park your car whenever you feel like. And so you know what we're up against. Anybody? Okay.
What I'm suggesting we may want to do is, and again, it's as written, it's not limited solely to towing vehicles between midnight and 6 or midnight and 7. It's any time of the day. In 3B, suggesting possibly adding the concept that if we have this current operations and maintenance services agreement between the district and the Stony Brook Association. And as part of that, the Stony Brook Association acts as the district's authorized agent under certain circumstances.
Correct.
And what might be possible is to place under 3B, have it read, to effect towing removal / removal of a vehicle or vessel, the district manager or his or her designee or the district's authorized agent must verify that the subject vehicle or vessel is not authorized by the district or its authorized agents to park in a towaway zone. And then that gets back to the item with regards to the passes. If there has been, as part of the operation agreement, there has been a request, say by a resident, to have a function, to be able to park on the street, and there's pass or approval given, then that will not be an issue, that they will not be towed.
I have a
Is
question.
that sort of how it works now?
Yeah, well, we
No,
don't tow it all right
absolutely.
now. But,
Even if there's a lot, I mean, do they ever come to the association and ask for any approval? for
yes,
like,
we do.
like I said?
We do, not so much,
No.
parking on the street as it is, but if we have vehicles that park in driveways and things like that, there is a pass given out.
So you got a little bit different situation.
For a
we-
boat or
we
something
don't
like that,
have
we
any-
have
Yeah,
that.
that's true.
We don't have any no parking signs. We don't have any no parking signs. We just have the red signs at the deal and the covenants that indicate that no parking is between midnight and 6 a.m. Other than that, it's ollie, ollie, ollie free.
So, Tony, if you added that language, then it would fall under part of the operations and maintenance agreement that we have?
Yes, and then I may need to relook at that, and also whether we need to amend any part of that, I can bring that back in the next board meeting. But I think that was the intent, as I understand, of the operations and maintenance agreement, was to have the
Open
association.
door for this to be able to be done.
Yeah, and so, again, if the board wants to adopt this resolution, then we can, like, I'll double check and look at the operation and maintenance agreement. If it needs any amendment, I can bring it back at the next board meeting. But then 3B would read, to effect, I just add a couple more also. To effect towing/removal of a vehicle or vessel, the district's authorized agent, parentheses, the district manager or his or her designee, close parentheses, must verify that the subject vehicle or vessel was not authorized by the district or its authorized agents to park in the throwaway zone.
Okay.
Is that comfortable?
Yes.
One thing I would like to add, and one of the reasons we did want to make it a daytime versus nighttime, we did want to have some flexibility, even during the day, if there's a situation where it's an unsafe situation, or a car stuck in the middle of the road blocking it, we'd like to have the capability to go and get that vehicle out of there.
You guys have finding, don't you?
Yes.
Do you fine for on-spot violations? Or you
Not
give
for
them a
parking
warning?
in the road, we don't, not
You
anymore.
don't?
Yeah.
We
That's good.
We put on, we put on
enforce
a, we put on a safety violation notice as recommended by the CDD, the
Oh, it's
language
because
is
it's our
right
roads,
of us.
okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It basically all it is, it says you are violating a safety ordinance to protect not only the CDD, but us, in case something does happen.
Yeah, and keep in mind, we're limited to what you're limited to, and you can't go out and get parking tickets either, which is bizarre, but you can tow first.
So I would suggest that the board's inclined to adopt this resolution, if they adopt it, with the revised language 3B that I read. I'll revise it to the chair's signature and also look at any amendments, work with Joe and Darren, or shall I work with Warren? I'll tell me who-
Well, I'll still chair the,
Okay, on
committee,
the
yeah.
language for the amendment to the operations maintenance agreement.
And we'll
So
bring,
all that-
and I'll bring Andy into the loop also.
Oh, very good, I'm sorry. Okay.
All right?
So with that, I'll make a motion to approve this policy with the changes to 3B that Tony was recommending.
Madam Chair, let me go brief comment. Just trying to slide in after you get done, it really just butt and tails what Tony was just speaking about, what Mr. Banks asked me to read his statement. He said, "I'm not in favor of the district approving this motion and would like my vote of no to be included for the record if possible. My concern is that I believe it is still unclear what would constitute a violation and escalation due to various potential interpretations of the governing statutes and regulations. I would ask that Tony state clearly in language that is translatable to the Stony Brook community what the rules and regulations are and would be. Furthermore, I'd like to know in detail how Stony Brook will monitor this new policy and how they plan to drive consistency."
As far as his first request, to have his vote counted, it can't be counted.
Right.
With all due respect to Mr. Banks. With regards to clarity, I mean, it's unauthorized parking, the district hasn't authorized parking on any of those streets, so I think it's clear that you have, discretion is always inherent in any of these kind of processes. And I think we set up the chain of command appropriately. And we'll make that interact with the agreement with the district and the association.
I have a motion, do I have a second? I'll second. Thank you, Kathy. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Part 1, phase 1.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you for your.
Andy, can you send me, Joe, can you send me Andy's email address?
I sure will.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. He's got my number.
Go out and buy a stock of reds.
I'm sorry, I did bump ahead since we had people here that were interested in that. So I'll go back to the manager's report.
Email it out to the president, whoever the president is.
Manager's report.
Thank you, and I'll be brief on this. The flowway cleaning project's moving along. They've gone around the corner from Hidden Links. They're working behind Pistoia Drive. We found one little bottleneck in there that we think we have a solution for, just to open it up. The flowway is actually constricted so much in there that the flow's been reduced by 20%. And the depth on that canal, that area right now is 3.5 feet.
Is that what it is?
That's what it is. It was,
And what does the plan show?
well, the plans
Eight.
were pulling out to see, but it's at least 20% reduction in the volume on that corner. But that's something we can just scoop out, lay some riprap and material
I
in.
think there's
But,
plans.
Yeah, I know there's plans on that. I know there's plans, but it don't look like it. It's been filled in so many times with debris.
It's moving along. We hope next week to be out on the interstate. Pond standards, met with Flavia. We're working on getting committee members together, an appointment for those members, and also a charge of work that we're gonna include in the resolution, what they want us to look at. And we'll bring that back to the next board meeting for the board's consideration.
I went to myself, I could not find it. I even went in our own minutes and couldn't find the motion creating the pond standards in 14. I don't know where in the dickens those are. But there was one meeting where it said something pertaining to the pond standards was attached as Exhibit A. Well, Exhibit A isn't attached online, so I have a feeling that's what you need to see. Do we keep a hard copy of these documents?
Yes.
Memorialize what happened?
Yep, we do, and what I was working off from a model is from the Landscape Advisory Committee, where there was a resolution passed by the board giving them a charge, what their task was and what the time frame was to bring back their recommendations to the board. And Flavia's gotten some interest from a variety of people who'd like to serve on the committee.
Well, Flavia you were on the committee, so
Yes.
she might, so is Judy, they might have some of the old records of what we started out with.
Yeah, from our
Wait,
last
I actually
discussions.
have a printout of every, I think there are like 6 different ones, believe it or not.
Right.
But I have a printout of every single one as
So
well.
at least we
I
got a
have
start
them
this
too.
time.
Yeah, and some of the issues we've gleaned from the meetings and workshops, where the DO is silent, how do you want to address that? What's the policy? Also going back to that removal policy. But we have 8 different subject areas that we wanted to list as far as the charge for the committee to address. And we'll bring that, like I say, back to the next board meeting. If you'd like to make any changes to that, then we'll finalize it and get the first meeting scheduled with the committee. And we put together a primer for all the committee members, which is basically a look back since 2011 on all the littoral initiatives that have gone on in Gateway, accumulating with the pond standards. And I also attached a bill cycle summary, what's been going on with the utility department. And some of this data I think you'd find interesting, but one thing that I discussed with the chair is in the last bill cycle, we had 401 manual reads, which due to defective MIUs or issues with the equipment, we had to send people out to 400 meters.
And that do not be happening.
Can you go to I think there was a backup to this, maybe it was something that Kenny had put in, and I didn't write it down, but I flipped through the pages, there was something I saw that I didn't understand in your reporting. Can you go just slowly through those pages? There was, I think, an attachment to this.
I just have 2 pages on mine.
Kenny, did you ask, something I saw in there, it showed,
Was it one of these?
yeah, was there one behind that? Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, we go behind it.
Maybe it's the one behind it. Yeah, there you go.
The irrigation
There you
usage
go.
based on tiers?
Well, yeah, the shading, was the shading meaningful for something?
Well, just showing the number of people in those high tiers, those were the top 3 subdivisions.
Oh, okay,
with-
okay, I
with-
couldn't figure that.
Yeah, sure, with people, and if you look at it versus the number of people in there, it's probably not inordinate.
But you say residents, 134 residents ran irrigation consecutively over 32 days. Do we know where those 134 are at?
Oh, sure.
Are they scattered through here?
That I don't know, we know where they are at.
So our MIUs are telling us and showing that there is reuse use 32 consecutive days of 134.
That meter reports every day. Those meters will report every day.
What do they have, boats in their backyard or something?
Well,
Where's
we
all the
talked
water
to-
going?
When we hooked that meter up at Hampton Park, because they had an unmetered connection, they were watering that boulevard 6 days a week. And now that it's metered, I think they've cut back on that usage, but that cycle was running. And what happens too, and especially over in Pelican Preserve, is when they set the new houses up and run them on that irrigation water-in schedule, 4 or 5 months later, the neighborhood's still running on that schedule.
Here's what bothered me though, Chris, on this, and you almost have to put more footnotes to explain it, but I look at tier 3, which is the big boys, the big users.
Right.
We have only 60, but we have 55 that ran over 55 days. I can believe that if it was 65 or 70, or at least 60 to match the tier 3. I guess I'm just trying to figure out where's the water going?
It's
All
going-
these people.
It's going